Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we're going to talk about 10 must-own Scream Factory titles for your collection. So, I recently did this for Arrow Video to kind of coincide with the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale. I don't know. There may be a Scream Factory sale coming up. There may be what is it? Love is in the Scare sale. They usually do a sale around Valentine's Day. So this might be relevant by the time that I put it out. But either way, I just wanted to talk about some Scream Factory titles. So that's what we're going to do here today. But before we get into it, guys, I've got 10 titles that I'm going to show off here today. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We talk about physical media on this channel, guys. Blu-rays, 4Ks, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me every single day. If you like that kind of stuff, that kind of content, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. In a world that it feels like has left physical media behind, we are one of the last beacons of hope for physical media. I will talk about this stuff even when it's not, well, I mean, you could argue it's not popular to talk about this stuff anymore, but even when like nobody's talking about it, I will still be here talking about physical media because I love it that much. I also want to say, guys, comment down below your thoughts on some of these picks. Now, these are must-own titles that I think you should have in your collection. I think they have some value. I think they have some merit. Now, you could look at some of these movies I show off and say, Ken, I remember watching that back in the 80s or the 90s. That was a piece of crap, okay? Why do I need that in my collection? Just because it's in a shiny slipcover and it's got new entries? And that's fair enough. Just let me know that in the comments section below. Let's get into my first pick, guys. Okay, now this is a wacky one, but I remember getting this, I think, back in 2021. This is a Wes Craven film. I had never seen this movie before, but I just had a hell of a time watching it. This is Deadly Friend. Look at the nice slipcover on that, guys. So basically, without getting too spoiler heavy, you have a girl played by Kristy Swanson. I think this is one of her first roles, actually. There's a robot, and there's an accident that happens that causes them to have to put part of the robot brain inside of Kristy Swanson's brain, and then she starts acting weird. And then that weirdness kind of gets a little crazy and homicidal. So that's basically the premise of the movie. There is a scene in this film involving a basketball that is must see. Like, just because of that scene, you have to have this in your collection just because of that scene. But this is really a terrific Blu-ray, though. I think it is. Well, it's a 2K scan. I don't know if they'll do this one in 4K. They just did the Blu-ray back in 2021. I'm a little reluctant to recommend you pick up some of these Blu-ray titles because, as we know with Scream Factory, they like to upgrade a lot of stuff. But I did try to pick stuff that I don't think they'll upgrade anytime soon. But yeah, Deadly Friend just came out with a release. The 2K scan, though, looks great. The Blu-ray looks really great. It's got good features on it. You got a interview with Kristy Swanson. I always love that when the actress comes back to talk about her films, because sometimes with these actresses, they'll go on, they'll become more popular. Like she would go on to do stuff like Buffy and other things in the 90s, and then they'll forget about where they came from, and then they'll just get all uppity about it, and they don't want to talk about it. So I always appreciate it when some of these actresses come back, especially the actresses, and they talk about these films. So I appreciated getting to hear Kristy Swanson talk about Deadly Friend for sure. But yeah, this was a cool one. This is a cool one. And like in every Wes Craven movie, people that talk about Wes Craven always talk about him with such reverence and respect. You can tell the people that worked with Wes Craven really loved him. So yeah, this is a fun one though. This is it's kind of ridiculous, and it has a really awesome theme song that goes like this: "Baby, baby, 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 baby." It's so catchy, guys. It's so catchy. But Deadly Friend, I recommend that you add that one to the collection. Next up, guys, this is one of my all-time favorite films. It's a part of the franchise, but this is the only one I'm recommending of that franchise. Child's Play 2. And look at this slip cover on this. Look at that artwork. Now, I got the alternate artwork when these came out. For all of them, I think I got the alternate artwork. I'm just such a fan of the franchise. But Child's Play 2 is by far my favorite of the franchise. And this is the 4K release right here. You have the original poster on the inside. But this is such a great addition of what I would consider to be maybe one of the best horror sequels of all time. I would honestly maybe put it in my top 5 horror sequels of all time. Like, I love this movie that much. To me, it just took everything established in the first one and just upped it to the nth degree. I mean, I think that Chucky is the scariest in this film. Everything you loved about Chucky in the first one, everything you hated about Chucky in the first one just gets so like intensified in this one. I just think he's perfect. He really comes into his own as the character. You know, Brad Dourif really gets the shine, his voice work and everything like that. I love the actor that plays Andy. God, why can't I remember like people's names? Vincent. I'll get it here in a second as I'm Alex Vincent. There you go. You also got Christina Leeson here as Kyle, who's one of my favorite characters of the entire franchise. I love Child's Play 2. I love the ending, like in the big like doll factory maze. Like that was always so freaking cool to me as a kid. The scene with him and the ruler and the teacher, always been one of my favorites. How's it hanging, Phil? There's so many great like iconic moments in this movie. I've been watching this film since I was a kid. I've been watching the Child's Play franchise since I was a kid. This is by far my favorite. But the reason I say get this one like over the other ones, I think that like maybe the first one is the best of the franchise. It's a great film, but the second one just looks the best in 4K. Like this one in 4K looks magnificent. So if you're going to upgrade any of the Child's Play films, like maybe you got it on Blu-ray or DVD, if you're going to upgrade any of them, I highly recommend you upgrade the second one, because the second one just looks magnificent in 4K, you know, especially for that doll factory sequence at the end. But this is a cool addition. I mean, it's got both the Blu-ray and the 4K on the inside. The Blu-ray's got a new 4K scan to it, so even the Blu-ray looks really good. So if you can get this one like in an upcoming sale, or you know, this one, I don't even know what the price is for this normally. Highly recommend you get Child's Play 2. All right, guys, let's speed this up. I'm taking too much time talking about these titles. Silver Bullets. Oh my goodness. We talked about a werewolf movie in the Arrow video recommendations with American Werewolf in London. Silver Bullet might be my second favorite werewolf movie. I think I would put this above The Howling. I love this movie. Like, I think that Corey Haim, like this is an early performance for Corey Haim. I think it's his best performance of all of the movies that I've seen with him in it. I think there's just something so genuine about his character in this film. And I love the relationship that he has with his uncle, Gary Busey. And I just think the movie's got a lot of heart, and it's just really cool. I like the werewolf design in this one. I like how the story unfolds and develops. Like, it's kind of a whodunit until it's not. But it's a good movie, and it's brutal too. Like, it kind of has that like old school, like almost like kid type horror film feel to it. Until it starts to get really brutal, and you're like, oh my goodness, this movie's really going for it. But I love Silver Bullet, based on a Stephen King novel. I don't know if it was a full novel or maybe a novella in one of his bigger books, but yeah, Silver Bullet's incredible. This 4K is one of the best 4Ks that Scream Factory's ever done. This movie looked immaculate in 4K. It's the perfect like 4th of July summer film as well, with the fireworks and the werewolf and everything. So definitely you can watch this one in the summertime, but the 4K is incredible. I want to say they added at least like a new audio commentary here. There was something new that added here, because they did a Blu-ray of this, I think, in 2019. Then they did the 4K in 2023. So there wasn't that much time in between the two of them. So all those new features from that Blu-ray are on here. And they were great features. Tons of great stuff to dig into with this release. But if you're going to get like any 4K, like, I highly recommend Silver Bullet. Like, it's such a banger. Next up, guys, we got Dead Silence. This is an early film from James Wan. I think Lee Winnell, who also just directed The Wolfman, which we just talked about, a werewolf movie. See, things connect, guys. They connect. I think Lee Winnell helped him write this one, or they wrote it together or something like that. But I think that Dead Silence is cool. I think it's a movie that I remember watching this when it came out. I think my wife and I rented this one back in the day. And I don't remember like loving it. I remember being a little bored, but rewatching it on 4K, like I appreciated this one a lot more. Like, you could see, like, it's really cool when you watch James Wan stuff, because you go back and you watch Saw, and you know, you can start to pick up on some things. You start to pick up how he moved the camera, how he like set up certain shots, like how he built tension and suspense. And then you can start to see the evolution. I think how he evolved with this film, this is kind of like almost a direct lead-in to what he would do with Insidious and then The Conjuring, just how he kind of builds on these more like supernatural scares in this film. So I think Dead Silence, like if you like Insidious, if you like The Conjuring, how those films are paced, this one is very similarly paced, in terms of that. So I think Dead Silence is a really, really solid film. Looked really great on 4K as well. And I would definitely recommend it. And this also does have an interview with Lee Winnell in it. Has the Blu-ray, has the 4K as well. Okay, guys, let's talk about House of Wax. So this is a movie that I saw this in the theaters back in 2005. There's a few in the Screen Factory collection that I saw in the theaters back in the day because they have paid attention to the more like 2000s era horror, which I do appreciate. It's a movie I saw in the theaters back in the day, and I was like, that was okay. Like during that time, I was really into Friday the 13th and Halloween and some of those older slashers and stuff. So I didn't pick up on like just how good this movie was like for the time and how they really were like resurrecting the slasher, like the old school like 80s, 90s slasher, or not 90s, but like old school like 70s, 80s slasher in a way. Because 90s, of course, you would get into the Scream stuff and they just started to do everything way differently and get way more into the meta. At this point in time in the 2000s, they were really taking it back to more of the old school approach when it comes to these types of slashers. So I appreciate this one now a lot for what it did. And I do think this one's like genuinely pretty creepy. Kind of has like a Texas Chainsaw almost like feel to it, aesthetic. I feel like TCM, the remake, came out, and a lot of the horror films that came out after it just felt very grimy and dirty and nasty and dingy, like this one and The Hills Have Eyes. Like they just had all Wrong Turn, like they all had like a certain like feel to them. This one also had a pretty good cast. You had Chad Michael Murray, who I forget the show. I didn't watch the show that he was on, but I know he was pretty big at this time. He was on some kind of CW show, if it was the OC or One Tree Hill or something like that. Paris Hilton was in this film, which she actually did an interview on here as well. So speaking of like Christy Swanson, Paris Hilton also came back to do an interview, which I thought was really cool because the whole promotion of this film was built around like people not liking Paris Hilton, getting to see her die. Like they promoted the film as that. So it was cool that she kind of like was a good sport about it, came back, still talked about the movie. Alicia Cuthbert, which, come on guys, like if you were a guy like of a certain age back in the 2000s, like you remember Alicia Cuthbert, like especially like from Old School, like that's the movie that I first remembered her and then The Girl Next Door, and then she did this, and she did a few other, I think, horror thrillers around this time as well. So a really good cast in this movie. It's just a fun slasher. It's a really good slasher that I have learned to appreciate a lot more. Now, Screen Factory did this Blu-ray, I think, back in 2020. Will they upgrade this one to 4K? It's possible. I don't feel like they will anytime soon, but again, it's always possible. I think that this one, I want to say this one did have a 4K scan, but it's not saying it on here on the back, so I'm not exactly sure, but it's a good looking Blu-ray. It is a good looking Blu-ray. House of Wax Blu-ray. This one just came out recently, guys. I just did a review on it, but I want to talk about it again because it was just such a great release. I still think it's underappreciated, in 2024, but Hush. This is Mike Flanagan's Hush. Now, this debuted on Netflix, and it was on Netflix for a very long time. I feel like people took it for granted, and then when it was taken off of Netflix, everybody was like, hold on now. You can actually take Netflix originals off of Netflix, and they can literally like have no place to be able to be watched because they have no physical, they have no streaming home. Like, what's going on here with streaming and movies? People started freaking out about that. And then it was kind of, everybody was kind of relieved when they found out that Mike Flanagan actually, just kind of cut ties with Netflix and was able to take this from Netflix because he actually owns the film. And then Shout Factory was set to put this on their streaming service. And then, of course, we knew that an inevitable, physical release would come. And what a physical release did come in the form of this edition, because this is an incredible edition. It's got 2 cuts of the film, 2 different ways to watch it. You can watch it with the original cut in 4K, and you can also watch the shush cut in 4K, which is pretty much a cut that's in black and white, and they kind of take the score out of it, so you're just hearing the sounds, which this movie has such great sound design. But basically, this is a home invasion film, just kind of with an extra like creative twist with her being deaf. and they really do some cool things with it. So highly recommend Hush. It's got like 9 new features and interviews here as well. Like, it's such an incredible release. 2 cuts of the movie, 4Ks, Blu-rays of those 2 cuts, a disc with just all kinds of special features, an actual filmed audio commentary. So yeah, definitely one of the best 4K releases that came out last year. And Hush is a really solid home invasion thriller, and I highly recommend that you add this one to the collection. Mike Flanagan is like legitimately one of the best horror filmmakers working today. All right, guys, we got 4 more. I got the shirt on right here. Let's talk about Sleepaway Camp. I don't know if we'll ever get this on 4K. I really don't. Like, part of me feels like maybe Scream Factor will announce this one in 2 and 3 this year. Maybe Vinegar Syndrome's got something up their sleeve and they're going to do like a big box set of the Sleepaway Camp movies 1 through 4. Isn't there like 4 of them? I know there's 3, but there might be 4 of them. I don't know. I don't know who's going to put them out on 4K, but the Blu-ray's just sitting here. You know, it's available from Screen Factory. It's pretty cheap, like in all the sales. You can get it for like $9 or $10. Like, this was at Walmart for the longest time for $9.99. But Sleepaway Camp is an absolute like banger of an 80s slasher. If you had not seen this movie before, you gotta watch it. You'll think it's very goofy for the most part, and it is. But like, when you get to the end, like if your socks are just not blown off your feet over your head, like with what happens at the end, like, you're not human. So definitely check out Sleepaway Camp. It's one of the best 80s horror films. It absolutely is one of the best 80s horror films. It's definitely one of the best like camp slasher films. Like, up there, I would say, with most of the Friday the 13th films. Like, I would put it in that league. Like, I love some really creative and inventive kills that just feel different for that genre at the time. This has got all kinds of really good features. It's a new 2K scan. You got a new commentary with Felissa Rose, Jonathan Cherston, original commentaries, new interviews, tons of great stuff on this release right here. Will it come out with a 4K at some point? It's possible, but like, you know, why wait? Pick this up. It's a great release from Screen Factory, and it's just sitting there for you to get right now. All right, we got 3 more, guys. We got 3 more. This one, I didn't even plan this, guys. I got 2 werewolf movies in this stack, but we got Cursed. This is, and 2 Wes Craven films in this stack. We got Cursed. This is from 2005. I didn't like this film when it came out at all. Like, I was like, oh my God, what is that? But I actually bought the Blu-ray. It's a 4K scan. It looks really good. It's from the original camera negative. I honestly don't know why they just didn't go ahead and do a 4K at this point, but they released this, I think, back in 2022. I had a lot of fun with this. This really is kind of, you know, it's in the Scream era, so it has that kind of Scream vibe to it. Kind of that, like, you know, 2000s Kevin Williamson dialogue kind of aesthetic to it. It might have been written by Kevin Williamson, to be honest. But it's a good one. And again, it's directed by Wes Craven, so it's no wonder it still has that kind of influence. But I think Cursed is a good werewolf movie that is brought down because of the horrible effects and CGI and just the way the werewolf looks. And of course, the infamous scene with the werewolf flicking off the camera. Like, everybody remembers that. But like, I do think that it's actually like a genuinely good werewolf movie. It's got a good cast. You got Jesse Eisenberg in this film. I think Joshua Jackson is also in this film. I want to say Joshua Jackson's in this film. And of course, you got Christina Ricci, who is just like hot at this time. Like, she was doing all kinds of great stuff, and she is great in this movie. So it's got a good cast. It is a fun werewolf movie. It really is a good werewolf movie. It's just kind of brought down because the effects suck, and they should have used more practical, and they didn't. And I think if they did, they would have had a more classic werewolf movie that people look back on fondly. But yeah, I think Wes did a good job with this one. We got 2 more. We got The Fog on 4K. Look, I recommend this one for like the fall time. I think The Fog is like the perfect like September, October watch. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it's like the best thing John Carpenter's ever done. But it's solid. It is a solid ghost story type film involving a town with a fog rolling in with ghost pirates in it that's just out to murder and massacre and take revenge on this coastal town. And it's got just a really creepy like vibe to it. Like, the performances and stuff and characters aren't the most interesting, but the actual like just movie itself and the vibe of the film like is almost the star of it. And the score is so good in The Fog. Like, this is one of John Carpenter's best scored movies. I love it so much. But yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis isn't great. Tom Atkins in the film, not great. I like Adrienne Barbeau. I think she brings a good amount of energy, but this is not a movie that you watch for the characters and things like that, or even like, honestly, the story. It's really just all like vibe and aesthetic, and I think it excels at all that stuff. So I love The Fog. I like watching this film around September, October, when it's getting a little chilly outside. You just kind of curl up with a blanket and just kind of involve yourself, engage with The Fog. It's really, really a creepy, scary kind of campfire style story. But yeah, The Fog, and the 4K looks great. All kinds of great features on here as well. So I definitely recommend you get The Fog, add that to your collection for sure. We got one more, guys, to talk about. This is Class of 1984. Will they upgrade this one to 4K? I think it's possible. It could happen, but this is a really cool movie that when I was watching it for the first time, I was like, I don't know about this one. This one kind of feels a little bit like an after-school special. You have a teacher that's kind of, trying to help these students that aren't the best. Like he's teaching in a bad part of town at a bad school with a lot of rebels, a lot of bad eggs at this school. And he's trying to make the best of it. He's trying to help these kids. And then when he realizes that he can't, when nothing that he's done has worked, it gets wild in the last like half hour of this movie. And the last half hour of this film, like, really sold it for me. Like, really sold this movie for me. So I absolutely love the Class of 1984 right now. I think it's awesome. And this is also a really early performance by Michael J. Fox. This might be like around the same time he started in Family Ties. It's definitely before Back to the Future, because this was back in 1982. So he's in the movie. Like, he's not like a main character in the film, but he is in the film. So that's an interesting thing about it. But I definitely think Class of 1984 is kind of a banger and definitely a must-own 4-year Scream Factory collection. But there you have it, guys. That is the 10 must-own Scream Factory titles. Now, I will link the Amazon links down below in the description. You can also get these off the actual Scream Factory, Shout Factory website. But thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and we'll see you next time.